Doesn't make any sense. Why do we do it? We need to get rid of it.
We do. Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg podcast.
I'm Rose, also known as Cheap Lazy Vegan on YouTube.
And I'm Daniel, one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends who love to talk about the latest trending topics.
So get comfortable and join us while we give our SaVeg take on just about everything.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SaVeg podcast.
Hey, guys. Welcome.
Welcome back.
Mm-hmm. We're back. It's another lovely sunny day.
It's looking dark as hell.
I know. Well, I was thinking about this the other day, and like obviously, as the days go on up until December 21st, it's kind of sad to think because it's
going to get shorter and shorter.
Yeah. November 13th, every day it gets a little bit shorter. But then once we hit December 21st, it flips.
Yes.
So we got about another month to go and then it will start flipping and getting better.
It's so depressing.
It is really sad.
Because it's like, okay, because of fucking daylight savings, which I absolutely despise.
Yep.
Which we need to get rid of. Okay. Like, I don't know why it's still there. Like, why do we still do this? Okay. It's so stupid. It's 6 o'clock. No, 5 o'clock. And it's already basically dark.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still in November.
Yep.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And also it's annoying how like some places do daylight savings and some don't.
It's just so stupid.
And I was like, it's like I was coordinating, like whenever you like coordinate phone calls with like international friends and stuff, it's like, okay, hang on, before, because you guys don't do daylight savings, but we do. So before we were like 7 hours, now we're 6 hours, now we're this, now we're that. It gets so confusing.
Like I know the UK does it, but then I don't know where else doesn't do it, does it?
I know that there are places that don't do it.
Oh, yeah. Korea doesn't do it.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. Why do we do it? We need to get rid of it.
We do.
Anyway, guys, I'm in a mood today, so get ready for this episode.
I'm excited. Apparently also, too, and I think it might have been you telling me this, Rose, but like it's actually shown that when you do anything with daylight savings, so even like, spring forward, fall back, as they say, actually during that period of time, right around when the clocks change, there's increased levels of like depression, suicide, car accidents.
Wait. You might be.
Maybe I'm over exaggerating.
I think that's an exaggeration. I'm not sure about the depression and suicide, but there's like an increases in, for example, like heart attacks or stroke or, just car accidents, things like that, where because of that extra hour that is changing, that fucks up our like circadian rhythm or something, and it just like messes something up.
But I think honestly, like I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, my circadian rhythm is fucked.
In what way, Daniel?
Because I'm like, I feel like I'm all over the place. Like some days I go to bed early, some days I go to bed late. I get up at a variety of times. Like during the week when I work, I get up generally at the same time. But on the weekends, then I try to like sleep in and stuff.
You're speaking, this is literally every single person on this planet.
True, I guess.
You are like not
but
abnormal
like, no, because some people, they actually like, let's say they get up at like 5:30 for work. On the weekends, they get up at 5:30. Yeah,
those are people that don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, that's true.
Like anyone that drinks alcohol follows a schedule like you, and your sleeping schedule is not that fucked. Like you don't sleep that late.
That's true. I'm usually
only
up
sleep
by, like,
late when you go out drinking.
True.
And
even then, like we were out on Friday, and then Saturday I got up at 8, and then I was like, and then
you're a very normal human being.
And then I was like lying back in bed, and I passed out and got up at 11:30 after.
Yeah, this is a very normal human experience. So you're fine, Daniel.
Okay. Well, I thought maybe my circadian rhythm be
No,
fucked
you're fine.
up.
And you also like sleep like a fucking log. So
God damn.
I don't know why you're complaining about that.
Well, actually I still got a little bit of jet lag when we were traveling.
Oh my God.
And I got someone
Boo-hoo!
And I got
Cry me a river. Oh my God, jet lag.
Guys,
Iron Man got a jet lag.
I might have to exit stage right here and let Rose just finish the podcast by herself. I'd be scared.
Okay, this man, when he gets sick, it's like he'll cough for like a minute and then it's done. That was his COVID experience. Okay. And then he's like, oh my God, like I'm so jet lagged. But it's like, you're just like tiny bit sleepy.
Yeah. Anyway, guys.
What's it like being such a, made of steel, huh?
It's quite nice. Anyway, guys, if you're not already, don't forget to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/SaVeg podcast. We have exclusive content on there. We do a Patreon exclusive episode every single month. And all the content on there is ad free. And you get it a week before everyone else. So go check that out.
Yep. Check that out, guys.
Mm-hmm. And
anyways.
Now for our regular program.
So I recommended Daniel to watch a documentary, which, well, the thing is, I was watching it as I was recommending it to you.
Right.
Because I started watching it and I was like, this seems like it would be good.
Yeah.
So I was like, you should watch this. And then as I'm watching this, I was like, oh my God, this is so fucked up. It's
a dark one, guys.
Yes. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's called Take Care of Maya. It's on Netflix. I do recommend it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're probably going to be saying some spoilers. Should we say the main spoiler?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You want to dig deep.
I feel like we should because it's been a huge case, and actually it's really topical because they just won recently.
Yeah. So literally in the last 2 days, they won this lawsuit.
Yeah.
So basically the story is, so guys, it's on Netflix. You should still watch it even if you listen to this episode.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, even though it's like, yes, it's like a spoiler, but like, you know, it's a documentary.
Exactly. You still get more from it and you'll learn a little bit about it too.
But I have seen some like rebuttals.
Really?
But we'll talk about it.
But again, I know that a documentary has a certain point of view, right?
Yes.
The issue that I have with that though is there's such thing as a certain point of view, and there's such thing as like what am I trying to say? Like actions for certain things that are so obvious where it's like, even if the point of view is different, this is so blatantly in your face.
Right.
And basically like,
let's go over the premise.
Okay. So the premise of this show, guys, this documentary, is there was a young girl, her name's Maya, and she basically got diagnosed with, what was it? Chronic CRPDS or something
like this. Hold on.
And basically it's like this chronic illness where you get intense pain in a lot of your like joints and your ligaments, and it inhibits like certain movements and things like that. And it is something that like I think it typically happens in younger girls. Yes. And you can go into remission when you're a little bit older and stuff, but it's with you for life. So like it could come back in waves.
So it's called CRPS, Complex Regional Pain Syndrome.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Maya suffered from this. It was
at first they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
So one day I can't remember exactly what happened. I think she had an asthma attack or something.
Yeah.
And then she starts feeling this intense pain, and they've described it as like, for example, even just like a light touch on your skin feels like someone's like stabbing you or something. Yeah. So it's just obviously very excruciating. And so basically she was young. She was like, I don't know, probably she was like a child.
Yeah, really
and
young.
So her and her parents were going around everywhere trying to figure out what this was. And a lot of people, so many doctors like couldn't diagnose her, like couldn't figure out what this was. So obviously if you can't figure out what it is, you can't really treat it properly.
Exactly.
So then finally, like her mom's doing all this research. Her mom's this like woman from Poland originally.
She's a nurse too, her mom,
She's
right?
a nurse as well. But I guess this isn't very well known of a disease or syndrome.
Yeah.
So then they were like trying to figure out what this was. She's doing all this research, and then she finds this doctor that specializes in CRPD or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they go to this doctor, and then I don't know if exactly like they already found a doctor that specialized in it, or they just happened to go to this doctor. I can't remember exactly.
Well, I think it was a little bit of both, if I remember correctly. But anyway, they go to this specialist doctor for that.
Yeah, because she was like Googling the symptoms and then like matching it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. So basically they met up with this doctor, and the doctor treats Maya, and he confirms they did some tests and all this stuff. And he's like, yep, she definitely has the CRPD. Yeah. Thank you. And I think. he's like, look, this disease is very unique. And he's like, there has been some successful trial. CRPS. I got to remember this. There's been very successful, not successful. There's been some trial treatments of using, because the pain is so intense for these individuals, when you use normal pain medication, it doesn't necessarily like help them that much. Yeah. So actually they've been kind of experimenting with fentanyl, not fentanyl. No, oh God, Daniel, not fentanyl.
No, guys, not. And also, I don't think it was an experiment. He said ketamine is the medicine that we use to treat it. That's what he said.
He said, yeah, but it's not been like fully. I don't think it's fully like
recognized.
Yes, I think it's
interesting.
still, because even that fentanyl, fuck.
Ketamine.
Ketamine, guys. Sorry, ketamine. What am I talking about? Even the ketamine coma that they did, that was very experimental treatment.
That was probably experimental.
So anyway,
so at first they started with low dosages of now I'm going to say fentanyl.
I know,
Jesus Christ. They started with low dosages of ketamine. Now, if you guys don't know, ketamine is used as like a horse tranquilizer, and it's also like a street drug.
Yeah.
Like people use it to get high and whatever, okay? But obviously, different drugs have different purposes. So this apparently helps also with pain management and like managing this disorder or this syndrome. So then, they started with low dosages of ketamine, and then it wasn't really working very well. So then he recommended this controversial treatment, where he was like, okay, why don't you go to Mexico? Because I guess like they don't do it in the States
because it's so controversial.
And I think it's also the States is very strict with different types of drugs. Yeah, like you know what I mean. They're very much like war on drugs. Yeah, we can't do this because it's a drug, like all that stuff.
It's illegal
because it's like ketamine, probably right. Like for example, MDMA has been proven to help with depression, but they would never prescribe. Why can't we talk today?
I know. It's a weird day today, guys.
So like they would never prescribe the Mercury's in retrograde.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
That makes sense.
So he recommended for Maya to go to Mexico to do what is called a ketamine coma. Yeah. So I guess they do like really high dosages of ketamine and then she just kind of like lays there being high on ketamine, I guess, for a few days.
For like up to 5 days. 5 days is the typical. And what he said was the premise behind it is I guess when you're in these ketamine coma, it like resets or does something with your pain receptors and can really help. And honestly, after this controversial treatment, Maya improved drastically. Like I mean, obviously she still wasn't like running around and stuff, but her pain got to like a manageable state.
Right. Yes.
And then following this, the doctor was like, let's keep her on a much higher dosage
compared to before.
Exactly. Yes. And then so they kept her on a higher dosage, and it was working very well. Like it was, she was having a lot of success with this treatment, and that went on for about a year.
And initially, so that doctor was called Dr. Kirkpatrick, but he was quite expensive. So then he like somehow recommended another doctor,
right,
that somehow I don't know administered it for cheaper. I don't know exactly. Yeah. Okay, so basically there were two doctors that have confirmed that that have diagnosed her with CRPS. And so now they were getting the prescription from the second doctor.
Exactly. So keep that in mind, guys. That's two doctors now that have verified her condition and have both prescribed a similar treatment.
I'd also like to say, I feel like all of this shit could have been avoided if we do not have a private healthcare system.
Oh God, I know.
Continue.
Oh God.
Because guys, it's gonna get bad.
It gets crazy. So I didn't know what I was in for, by the way. When Rose sends this to me, I was just like,
okay, this is a weird.
It's a weird. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
On a side note, before we dive into this, there's another documentary, there's a series on Netflix. I watched like one episode or something, but I want to watch a bit more. And it's about people that with unique health conditions that they actually don't know what to do. And so they start using the internet. And this one doctor in the US is like, helps them find like specialists all over the world to try to, because imagine how scary it would be if you have like chronic pain and you just can't identify what it is. Like that's fucked up.
That's
like,
really fucked up.
Normally it's like, oh, you have a pain in your shoulder, okay, you have like maybe you have a cyst there, or like there's like something where they can figure it out. But imagine like you're getting chronic pain and they just don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So anyway, going back to this, so she got prescribed to the second doctor successfully on this ketamine treatment for about a year. Now fast forward to the end of that year, and Maya starts having
there was a hurricane.
There was a hurricane.
And on that day, maybe because of the hurricane, maybe she gets scared. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But she starts having a severe stomach ache.
Stomach issues, really severe stomach issues. Yes. So her parents like, shit, let's take you to the children's hospital.
So they go to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital or something like this.
So they go there.
Johns Hopkins, very well-known, famous, huge hospital in America.
Yeah. So they go there, and her mom, who is, as we mentioned, she's, I think, Polish. Yeah. And
which I think had a big factor.
Oh, hugely.
Yes, we're going to have this discussion.
Because she's not a first first generation?
So she was an immigrant
right.
to America, to the States, and English was her second language.
Exactly. And again, I'm kind of sweeping a broad brush here, but
you're stereotyping.
But like a lot of individuals from like kind of Eastern European countries and stuff, they're just very more blunt and more like kind of to the when they're like chatting with you. They're like, okay, this is how this is done. This is why. They're very like that.
They're very direct.
Exactly. Which some people, if they don't know that, can take it as a bit of aggression. They can take it as like, you know, a little bit too much. If they don't,
you're being rude or something.
Exactly. So anyway,
I think that played a big factor.
Hugely did.
So anyway, they go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
They're explaining the daughter has this, you know, syndrome that a lot of people don't know about. So this hospital is kind of like not sure what to do because they don't really know much about this CRPS.
Exactly.
But then the mom is explaining, okay, and again, she probably came across a little bit rude maybe, but like, listen, your daughter's in pain. Yeah. I can understand the frantic nature, okay?
Of course.
Like, of course you're going to freak out. So her mom is explaining she needs to get like a certain amount of ketamine. Like we need to like inject ketamine or whatever the fuck.
And it was a very high dose, high dose. And that's why
what they're not used to.
Yeah. And the hospital's like, whoa. And the mom was like, kept pushing for it. They're like, no, we're going to get her on standard pain meds. And she's like, no, the standard pain meds are not going to do it. Her condition's going to get worse. She has to be on this medication. She has to, you know? And anyway, so I can't remember.
And then a bunch of stuff happens.
Yeah.
And then my kind of opinion is that based on, you know, obviously just seeing this documentary,
right.
But my like thought is that from there, they probably already just didn't like the mom.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've decided they don't like the mom. And then when you already decide from like first impression, you don't like somebody, like, you know, we have human biases and stuff.
Of course.
So they're probably like, this mom is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So then they bring in this lady doctor called
Sally Smith.
Dr.
Sally Smith.
Who is not even she's not a doctor of this hospital.
She's like a consultant, right? Is she?
She's some kind of so she's like a private contractor that is supposed to be
she basically does
specializing in child abuse.
She almost does like a welfare check. Basically, she goes into the hospital. She, you know, is a specialist at this children's hospital that goes in and evaluates the situation and decides whether or not the children is at risk, basically. And she came into the situation with Maya, and she basically determined, from her own professional opinion, based on what she talked to with the nurses and the doctors, that Maya was indeed at risk.
This episode is brought to you by Complement. Complement Essential is the ultimate multivitamin made for and by plant-based eaters.
Optimize your health with the 8 critical vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s, proven hard to get through a plant-based diet alone, all in one easy-to-take capsule.
I've been taking Complement Essential for months now, and it makes it so easy to make sure I'm filling in all my nutrient gaps.
If you're looking for the multivitamin for plant-based eaters, make sure to check out Complement Essential.
Go to lovecomplement.com. That's LOVECOMPLEMENT.com and use code SaVeg Podcast, SAVEG Podcast, to get 15% off your order and save even more by subscribing so you never miss taking your vitamins. Be sure to check out their other awesome products like vegan protein powder, gut nurture, and daily greens.
Once again, that's lovecomplement.com and use the code SaVeg Podcast to save 15% off Complement products.
Thank you so much to Complement for supporting this podcast.
Thank you.
Basically, they were concerned, blah, blah, blah. So Beata is the mom, okay? So Beata arrives at the hospital. Physicians comment that she is belligerent, demanding, and controlling regarding Maya's treatments. The hospital staff treat Maya with little improvement and begin to question the validity of Maya's diagnosis.
Right.
So I think this is when, so the Beata is frustrated with the care that Maya is receiving and talks of leaving the hospital.
Yeah.
The staff, on suspicion that Maya is a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, contact Child Protective Services. So this is where Dr. Sally Smith comes in without revealing her identity or the nature of the interview. She comes in and she's a child abuse pediatrician, apparently. Interviews Maya and Jack, who's the father, and then just comes to the conclusion that, and they said the interview was like 10 minutes. Comes to the conclusion that Beata is abusing Maya.
And so that she does have Munchausen by proxy.
So Munchausen syndrome by proxy, if you guys don't know what it is basically where, like, usually it's like a parent to child, usually, but it doesn't always have to be like that. But it's basically where you kind of like fake an illness on somebody else. So when you have Munchausen syndrome, that's you faking an illness on yourself. So you keep telling people you're like, you have cancer or something when you don't.
Right.
And you start like just showing random symptoms that don't exist or whatever. Whereas Munchausen by proxy is when you're doing it to somebody else. So they've just concluded that like Beata has Munchausen by proxy syndrome.
And the reason why they would say someone would do that is because they say the reason why particularly parents with children do this is because they have like a feeling in their mind. They need to feel needed and wanted, and they want their child, or they don't want their child, but I guess they do in this situation. They want their child to be sick so that their child needs them desperately, right?
Right. That's one reason. There could be, I'm sure
there's
multiple
a
reasons,
plethora,
but
right?
that's one big kind of thing, or like a control issue, or like they just want attention. There's like multiple reasons. Like they want, like some nurses have done this to like their patients, like some doctors have done this to their patients. Yeah. As in like injecting them with things to make them sick.
Well, actually that reminds me, which is something I might watch tonight.
Oh God.
Going on this like dark trend of like, real stories.
In this dark winter evening.
So there's a documentary that I was just looking at, on the Netflix, there's like that section of like real stories basically.
Oh God, what's it called, Daniel?
I can't remember what it's called, but it's about a nurse that's like doing some fucked up shit in the hospital.
Oh God.
And it's based on a true story. So I think I might watch it.
Well, have you heard of the recent case, guys? Just to, what do you call it?
Digress.
There was a case in the UK with this nurse. Her name was Nurse Lucy Letby or something. Maybe that's her. Maybe it's about her.
Maybe that's what this movie's based on, but I don't know.
Maybe.
Or this documentary.
But basically she was like a prolific serial killer, and she just recently got convicted.
Yeah.
And she went insane. And she worked at like a NICU, so like neonatal ICU.
Oh God!
And so she would just like kill these like newborn babies.
No, this is slightly different. I think this was like adults
it's so messed up. Anyways, you should read about Lucy Letby. It's fucked up. Anyways, okay, so back to the story.
Yeah, back to the story.
So basically what they're saying, they told the parents, you cannot take Maya out of this hospital because they are suspecting child abuse. Yeah. Sally Smith came in and she basically confirmed she basically said, yes, this is a case of Munchausen by proxy with very little evidence, I would say, at this point, right? It's like, I think in order to like detain somebody like this, you would probably need a little bit more information.
Well, this is what you would think. Like, and this is why, how you're saying there was like some backlash on this story and how...
Well, I'll kind of discuss what I've read at the end.
Okay.
So the thing is, so then now Maya is like now under state
protection or custody.
Yeah, state custody.
Yeah.
And they're told, Beata is told like she can't go see Maya.
Yeah.
And even Jack, the father, can only see her like very short periods of time under very severe. Yeah. And the problem is now at this point, they've said like, a lot of things happen. But one of the things is that they've shown the medical records.
Yeah.
Right, from both doctors, and they've had both of their original doctors, the ones that diagnosed her in the first place.
This is what blows my mind.
That's what kills me.
This is the thing. Like, I would get it more if they didn't have this expert opinion from other doctors sent to the hospital, or have that documentation to say, hey guys, like I know you guys think this is Munchausen by proxy or whatever, but here is the actual treatment schedule. Here's the two very educated doctors that specialize in this fucking field, and this is what they've said about Maya.
Yeah.
And yet the hospital's like, well, no. Oh my God.
Well, because the thing is, I can understand that doctors can have different opinions.
Yeah.
But that's a different story to Munchausen by proxy.
Exactly.
Because you can say like, okay, well, let's say Sally, this fucking Sally woman who looks evil, by the way.
She does.
Okay. I don't want to, anyway. So you can say that, okay, she doesn't think it's CRPS or whatever.
Yeah.
But then someone else thinks it's CRPS, and you could have a discussion whether or not you think it's CRPS, like whatever. But if a parent has Munchausen by proxy, I would imagine that they wouldn't have a diagnosis.
No, they wouldn't.
You know what I mean? Because usually when somebody has Munchausen by proxy, they are like full on faking something, and there's no evidence that it was faked, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing too, is like it just reinforced. Yeah, maybe the hospital, John Hopkins, didn't think that she had the CRPS. Yeah. But you have this expert opinion otherwise, and actually it just validates. Okay, this is why this mother was so pushing on the ketamine. Is this was working for her daughter, and these other doctors had recommended it. So she even went through the whole like ketamine coma process. Like that's all been documented and treated.
But I think that was also another reason why they were like, oh, this is like irresponsible.
Yeah.
This isn't.
But it was on recommendation from those doctors.
Exactly. So
that's
it's
what's
like,
fucked
again,
up.
you can say that you don't trust the recommendations or you don't believe in those recommendations, but then you have to take that up with that doctor.
Exactly. That's different than child abuse.
Exactly. So
very
it's kind
different
of very
things.
different. And then so to just take away the child immediately like that, it just seems, without any evidence, really.
Yeah, that's the part that got me is there was no evidence to sustain their claims.
Well, they're saying that there was, but like someone being rude and belligerent is not really that.
Especially when she thinks that they're treating her daughter poorly, and actually in those 3 months that she was detained, or not detained, but under state custody. Her condition deteriorated because the hospital refused to treat her for CRPS.
Yes. And so at this point, the doctors that they were originally treating her were writing them letters being like, hey, this is the diagnoses.
Yeah.
And then they were just ignored. They weren't put in the report.
This is what's fucked up.
That the Dr. Sally Field or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they went to court, right? Because they were like, I think the family hired a lawyer. They were like, we need to go to court to get our daughter back.
Yeah.
And then, so they went to court, but then the person that is doing the report, who's supposed to be impartial, essentially,
like an unbiased opinion.
Yeah, because like she's doing the assessment. She's not the prosecutor. She is doing an investigation. So she should put in all the information that is needed. Of course. But she already decided.
Yes.
This is the problem. She decided that the mom has Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah.
This is it. She doesn't have CRPS. That's the end of the story.
You know what I think it is? I think that this woman is, and I'm not defending it at all, but I think what happened is she's very proud. Like she's like, I'm the expert on this, blah, blah, blah. And if anything comes up to refute that, and a lot of people are like this, guys, where it's like you like, even if you like recommend something at work and then they're like, oh shit, that's the wrong thing. You feel kind of bad that you recommended it, so you kind of don't want to be like seen in that light. And I think that's probably what she did, is she right away was like Munchausen by proxy. And then even though she got all this documentation to say, hey, the parents were simply following guidelines from other doctors, they weren't trying to harm their child. And then for her she like doubled down and was like, nope, it's Munchausen by proxy. I've already recommended this. I've done this. I don't give a fuck what these other doctors are saying.
Yeah, which is so fucked up.
Yeah.
So then, and also it's important to note that the Florida's child welfare system is privatized, which is so fucked up.
So weird.
I'm sorry. Like, this is what some things should never be privatized.
Yeah.
Florida's child welfare system is privatized, and basically, the lawyer, her name is Deborah Salisbury, finds out that Dr. Smith works for the Suncoast Center, which provides services to Pinellas County, where Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is located. Right. So essentially, like, she works, it's like a conflict of interest, essentially, right? She gets more money, or like, again, like, maybe we're being a little bit cynical, but, sometimes you just got to follow the money, okay?
Yeah. Money talks.
And it says, so the lawyer also finds out that children in Pinellas County are almost 2.5 times as likely to be removed from their families when compared to the state average in Florida, which is very interesting. Okay. So basically there's something going on with this Suncoast Center providing services to Johns Hopkins, and somehow they're just 2.5 times more likely to be taken away.
I just think with this case, there's just so much evidence. Like, and obviously we can talk about it more too. It's like, there's just so much evidence, like why and I get it. Like, I'm sure she has an insane workload and all this other stuff. But if you have a situation with a parent and then you have other doctors writing on behalf of those parents to say, hey, this was our diagnosis. This is what we were doing. This was the treatment recommended. This is what we followed. And it was what the mom was saying at the hospital.
Yeah.
That should like negate your claim. And at that point, as an unbiased person, you should say, actually, I understand she was a little bit belligerent with some of the staff here at the hospital, which we don't tolerate. However, she was following recommendations from other doctors. And in that case, this child isn't at risk. And it's just more of a case is maybe our doctors don't agree with that treatment, but they were just following what another doctor was saying.
So then Maya's confined to the hospital without the parents. Beata is not able to speak with Maya over the phone. I think she was only sometimes allowed to speak when there's like a
social worker
there. And a judge issues a no contact order between Beata and Maya, blah, blah, blah. All this random shit
Crazy
happens.
shit happens.
And then... let's see. So, and then, so the dad is sometimes allowed to visit, but obviously he's stressed out because she's not getting the ketamine treatments that she needs.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Kirkpatrick, so the first doctor that diagnosed her, informs the family that Maya's prolonged severe pain could cause her death. Okay. So then obviously the parents are probably freaking the fuck out. Can you imagine? Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So then finally Beata is allowed to speak to Maya again under the strict supervision of the social worker. All this stuff happens. Oh, and then they found out that the social worker had been previously arrested for child abuse.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
This is crazy.
You can't see your child because you are allegedly abusing your child.
Yeah.
And yet the person that is somehow in charge of your child has been arrested for child abuse. That's fun.
So crazy.
That's great. I love that.
This story is just insane.
That's also insane to me that somebody that's a social worker, so like directly works with children, has somehow been arrested for child abuse, and yet you can somehow still work with children. Like that should be a no. Like after that, you need to get a new job. Like I'm sorry, or you do a different type of social work.
Exactly.
At that point, like you cannot do that. Okay, I'm sorry, but that is way too. That's way too. What do you call it? Dangerous.
Exactly. There's plenty of other jobs. Go find another one.
Exactly. So then, there's all these phone calls. It's heartbreaking. The mom, Maya's like distressed, and she just
the daughter
home.
just wants to go home and is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then apparently while Maya was in the hospital, all the doctors and stuff, or nurses were like talking shit about her mom as well, being like, she's crazy, like don't listen to her.
Yeah.
She's like super aggressive and blah, 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 blah. They'd all basically made their mind up about this mom.
Yeah.
Because obviously I think that like her mom must have been very belligerent in the hospital. Again, I don't know fully, not belligerent, but like very aggressive about her treatment, because it's a matter of life or death for her daughter. So she was probably like very like, this is what needs to happen. Listen to me. And obviously rubbed all the hospital staff the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. So then, so Beata is now under pending investigation by she's under like some sort of criminal investigation at this point. And then a detective interviewing Jack, so the dad, asks if he would be compliant if Maya was released under the condition that she would have no contact with Beata. And Jack says yes. So I think they basically at this point, they just wanted Maya out. Okay. And apparently like, I don't know, Jack felt like he had no choice but to say
of course
that.
Well, this is the thing, they also say in these circumstances that you should just say like agree with whatever,
exactly,
just to get your child out, right? Like
it's so messed up. You guys have to watch it. I was getting so angry.
It's frustrating. But the real heartbreaking one was the parents basically, they're continuing this court battle, right?
Yes.
And I think, I can't remember exactly what Beata said.
It says here, so the family goes through several court hearings that repeatedly result in the judge siding with the hospital and Dr. Smith. During one hearing, Beata requests one hug. Oh, sorry, is this what you were going to say?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
During one hearing, Beata requests one hug with her daughter, but this is denied. I will never understand this.
Yeah.
This makes no sense, okay? Again, you don't have to put them in a private room. They just want a hug.
Yeah.
Like, come on now, okay? Come on now.
I know, it's crazy.
Come on, like have a heart.
Yeah.
It's not proven. Like it's not actually proven that she's like abused. Like, she's still under investigation.
Exactly. That's what's the crazy thing.
It's let her have the hug. Maya clearly wants to hug her mom. It's not like Maya's like, oh my God, no, I hate my mom.
And you can even hear them on the phone recording. She's like, I love you, honey. Like all this like stuff. And I'm just like, and like,
oh, it's so devastating.
Yeah.
So then the hug is denied. And then Beata is, she reaches the breaking point.
Yeah, she reaches the breaking point.
And then on January 8th, 2017, after 87 days without her daughter, Beata hangs herself in the garage.
Yeah.
Which is so sad. I can't, did you know it was going to happen?
I had a feeling.
At the
very beginning of this documentary, I had a feeling one of two things was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because they even when they started showing the daughter, it was always like deposition and pre-recordings of her. So I'm like, either the daughter's dead.
Right.
I thought maybe the daughter died in the hospital care, or I thought something was going to happen to the mother. She was going to die.
Oh, but didn't they interview Maya like as a grown girl?
After. So
really? Not in the very beginning.
Not in the very beginning. In the beginning, it was all like older footage of her, or there was like this court deposition where they were recording her like as for this like particular court case or whatever. And I was like, something's weird here. Like, why aren't they showing like when the dad he would be like,
she was shown in the beginning.
you know the dad when he shows like up front, and they're like interviewing him for this show.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't see. The
mom,
Beata being interviewed for the show. So I'm like, something's fucked up there. And I also at the beginning didn't see the daughter. So I was like, something happened with the two of them. Anyway,
and they also had a son that was younger than Maya as well.
Yeah.
Which I also felt so bad for. Oh my God. And then the son was there. So basically when they found they found Beata, they like played the 911 recording, which I was like bawling my eyes out.
Oh my God, it's so hard.
This is when I was just like fucking dying, bawling my eyes out. And the poor son that was like a little baby at the time. He was like, I don't know, 8, maybe 7. And he was there, and he like saw it. Can you imagine?
No, and his dad's like, "Get out of here!
His dad's like, "No, you can't come in, you can't come in." And he's like crying. He's like, "Mommy," and I'm just like, "Oh my God, I can't." Yeah. So basically, So Beata like is at the point where she's like, everything's been taken away.
Yeah.
And I think a part of her, like, this is what people are speculating, which I think there might be some truth to this. She probably thought, if I'm gone, they're going to let her out. Which is what happened. Which is exactly what happened. So after she committed, you know, she unalived herself. Yeah. Basically, what happened right after? So I think like literally a few days later, within the couple of days, I think they came out and also during this time they got like a psych. Was this when the psych evaluation came out that she didn't have Munchausen by proxy, or was that way before? I can't remember when that happened. There was something like that where basically they were like, no, she doesn't have Munchausen by proxy. Yeah. Anyways, they finally let Maya out, or like out of state custody or whatever, which was just right after the death of. It's fucking Beata. Crazy. And then of course the dad was like, because he was like, oh my God. And then she got out and they had to go to her funeral. I was like, oh my God. It was so fucking sad. I honestly, guys, like, you need to be prepared with the tissues. It is so fucking sad. So yeah, that happened. And then they found like kind of like a suicide note. Yeah. I don't know if they actually sent it. She had sent one to the hospital. Like she sent an email to the hospital. Or no, I don't remember if it was the hospital or to the judge. I don't know if it was like in the drafts or she actually sent it. The drafts was her suicide note. Right. So that was in the drafts. And it was like to the whole family. I was like, oh my God, I can't talk about it. Yeah, it's so sad. And then the other one was either I think it was to the judge to be like, basically she like, you ruined my life. Yeah. She's like, you are like heartless. I can't believe you didn't let me go hug my daughter. All this shit. I'm sorry. Like, it was crazy. A lot of people were saying like that was the breaking point, which obviously it's not just the hug, but it's everything leading up to it. And then she can't even hug her daughter. And it's like, oh my God, like, am I ever going to win this situation? Exactly. So yeah. So then afterwards, obviously, like, you know, even though Maya's released, it's like, you know, the family's fucking destroyed. The family is full on fucking destroyed. Yeah. The mom's gone. It's crazy. So then basically they were like, okay, we're going to have to sue. They were going to sue the hospital. We're going to sue the hospital. Yeah. And the one reason why they said they could sue the hospital was because there's a very key thing that their mom did. Well, there's two things. Well, there's a couple things. So one thing was, what was the first thing? So the first thing, I can't remember what it's called, but essentially when you're going through this process, the hospital, or I can't remember if it's a hospital or a judge, or the courts, they provide you with this document called like I can't remember what it's called either. Code something. Basically, they say if you do X, Y, and Z, and essentially kind of like say you're guilty, even though you're not guilty. Do everything and do these things, like go to counseling. Yes. You know, like do this X, Y, Z. We'll release your child. We will release your child as long as you kind of like abide by the fact that basically kind of admit that you were doing the thing that they were accusing you of doing and kind of agree with the courts. Yeah. But then when you do that, you basically there's no chance of you to sue them. Yeah, you release the hospital from all damage or all responsibility. Yes, you basically have waived the hospitals. Yes, you've waived your right to be able to sue the hospital because you've agreed with them, and they are no longer liable for anything. Right. So a lot of people have done this, but Maya's mom refused to sign this document. She said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. So that was number one, why they were able to sue the hospital. Because if she had signed that, they would have no recourse. Yeah. Well, they probably would have some recourse in the court of law, but like, I don't know. It would be a lot harder. Yeah. They made it seem like it was not going to happen. And then on top of that, another thing that Maya's mom did really, really good is the fact that she literally documented the shit out of everything. So she would like get on calls, and it's almost as if she knew that where this was going, because she was like, can I record? She would always ask permission to record. Yeah. She noted everything. So they had like literally this plethora of stuff to go to sue the hospital with. And the thing that kicks me the most is when their lawyer was like talking, and this is as they're building up, getting all the case stuff together. They're getting the case, yeah. And their lawyer goes, he goes, so we've got some documents from the hospital, and they were billing the insurance company for the 3 months that Maya was there for treatment for none other than RPS when they had denied that she had it in the first place. And that right there, I was like, what the actual fuck are you doing? We basically have the case, like we're going to win it. Yeah. But then they kept delaying it and delaying it and delaying it for years. This is the thing that's a bit fucked up with our system. They should not be letting you do that. No, like the thing is like they literally, so this happened, I think it was 2017. And literally
they went to court like that year. They were like started the process, I think. And they've been waiting. And in the documentary, it was like their 4th year of waiting. And they all go to the court to see what the judge's decision is, because it sounds like they're going to get pushed once again down the docket or whatever. And then again, it was like another year that they were going to then have the hearing. And I was
Which
like,
is so sad it's so unfair to the family.
well, because the family's like, when is this going to be over? Like, we just want this chapter closed.
We just want to move on.
Exactly. We want to move on with our lives.
That's an extra 5 years essentially.
Yes, took 5 years.
Like extra, just constantly waiting, not being able to move on. Yeah. They finally went to court. Finally, and then we just found out, like, a couple
literally,
days
guys,
ago,
it was crazy because I watched this documentary when Rose texted me on the weekend, and then I looked, and it was like, I think it was like within a couple of days recently that the family just won the verdict.
I think that's why I started watching it, because I saw something about this documentary wins the verdict, and I was like, oh, I need to watch it now.
Right.
Because it just came out that they won, and they won like $200-something million of damages.
So they won $211 million plus another $50 million in punitive damages.
What's punitive damages?
Punitive damages, from my understanding, guys, it's like basically it's like an extra penalty to that.
Okay.
To that, it's like
for the pain and suffering.
Exactly.
Oh,
it's like you're entitled to X amount, but actually we think that this company or this organization did so much fucked up shit that we need to penalize them even more. Right. It's like an extra damages.
Right.
So they got the family got $261 million, which is a lot of money. But at the same time, like, think about all the fucked up shit they went through.
Oh my God.
Their lives will never be the same.
That's the thing. I always say, no matter how much money, it's never going to bring back the mom.
Exactly. The mom's gone. The daughter, all the development in those 5 years, how fucked up that's like. She's still, they were questioning her and doing a deposition. And in the deposition, they were asking her, they're like, well, one of the guy that was interviewing her, he's like, why are you scared to go to hospitals? Yeah. And she's like, are you and she like lost it. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? I was held there for 3 months. Like, I don't trust. And now she has this huge fear, which I would too.
Yeah.
Of even going to a hospital for treatment.
Yeah. You know, she was like, I love that part where she was like, I can't believe you're even asking me this question.
Like, are you fucking stupid?
The last time I went to a hospital, you detained me for 3 months. Yeah. Without me wanting to stay there. Yeah. So it's like, it's so messed up. So now I'll talk about some of the...
Yeah, let's hear the controversies.
Okay. So some people, like, so I've been, like I always do after I watch, a movie or documentary that I really like, I start Googling the shit out of it. Yeah. I want to see different opinions. So then most people, I think the consensus is, well, obviously they won this court case, right? Yeah. Like, I didn't sit through the entire court, but obviously this was a decision made by the jury based on all the evidence suggested.
And provided.
So I think that, obviously they won in the court of law. That doesn't necessarily mean it's, the
I know, because a lot of people win in the court of law that probably shouldn't. But like, anyway.
But technically they won in the court of law. Yeah. And I think most people, they've won in the court of public opinion for the most part. Yeah. But there are some people that have said, like, I saw this one video where they were like, no, these are classic signs of Munchausen by proxy syndrome. And they started listing these things. So a few things that... The thing is, I still don't think it's enough to say, yes, she had Munchausen by proxy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, some of her behaviors, like Beata's behaviors, were a little bit fishy. Yeah. And definitely not normal necessarily. But that doesn't mean that you have Munchausen by proxy. So, for example, one of the things that she did was when the... and again, I don't even know where this came from. I only saw it on Reddit. So I don't even know if it's like actual, real evidence. Yeah. But... basically, when Maya was doing her coma, the ketamine coma, I guess Beata started writing herself emails, and it was kind of like blog posts. I don't know if it was published, but basically it was like in the voice of Maya, but it was like she was right, like Beata was writing it, but it would be like, mommy is here next to me, and it's my first day of the coma, and it was strange. Like, I didn't read through it all. So don't get me wrong. It was very weird. Yeah. And some people say that's a classic sign of Munchausen. But again, that's not proof. Exactly. In my opinion.
I think ultimately for me, like, the biggest defining factor when I think of like Munchausen by proxy, and I could be wrong thinking this, but like the mom... From what I saw in that documentary, and again, that could be, obviously the documentary has a certain point of view, but she was following recommendations by specialists. Yes. That's the biggest thing. Like, if it was Munchausen by proxy, then maybe she's going off on her fucking wild time and being like, oh, my daughter has XYZ. No, she went to specialists who confirmed through testing and everything else that she had this diagnosis. They didn't just take the mom's word for it. They didn't just walk in and she said, oh, my daughter has this, subscribe her ketamine. And they're like, yeah, for sure. Here's the ketamine. It's like,
here's the other kind of controversial aspect based on that. Again,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily subscribe to this, but they said because this is like a pain syndrome, right? So pain is subjective, right?
It is, yeah.
So, and we, as someone that doesn't experience chronic pain, somebody can describe to you the pain.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to diagnose as like a separate person.
True.
So I think this is why this is the gray area, which is why this is like very controversial. So CRPS is, it's a pain syndrome.
Right.
Yes, there are other kind of circumstances, but so some people are saying that, like she may be making it up. Some people were saying she seemed to have worse symptoms when her mom was around. Although I don't also think that that's evidence of,
because remember the ego in waves with this particular
ego in waves. And also sometimes when your loved one is there, you might, show it more, right?
Yeah.
You might hide it more when you're not with your loved one.
when you're in public.
Exactly. But if your mom's there, it's like you kind of feel more release.
Exactly.
Like you feel more kind of
Like you can
comfortable
be
to show your
yourself.
pain.
Yeah.
So I think that's not necessarily the but that's what people are saying. So some people are saying because it's like a pain syndrome and she was apparently because she was like shopping around for all these doctors, and that's like another sign. Like she just kept going.
That's what a parent would do.
I know.
Like if my child, guys,
I
if my child had some crazy illness that none of the traditional doctors could identify what it was, what would any parent do?
I know.
They would look for specialists. They would try
Yeah.
to find out, get to the bottom of it, and find out what the fuck is going on with their kid.
Yeah.
Like it frustrates me. And I think one of the biggest things for me though through that whole documentary was the fact that the hospital was adamant that she didn't have CRPS, that she had this Munchausen by proxy. This wasn't a real thing. And yet for those 3 months, they were fucking billing the insurance company for treatment for CRPS. I'm sorry, but that to me is like, I mean, obviously it was case closed. Because like, what are you doing? You're the one that said she didn't have this. That's all being made up. Why would you be billing them for?
Yeah. What were you billing them for?
Exactly. That is what's fucked up.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, they were there for the 3 months and they weren't able to prove that, that she wasn't sick. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I get that Munchausen by proxy is a thing.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Sometimes
and there's legitimate circumstances.
Yes. And sometimes those symptoms may appear to show up or, whatever. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like, I think when people have chronic pain or when people have chronic pain, it's hard for other people to understand what that is like and what you
Especially
would
if
do
you
in
don't
that
have it
situation.
yourself.
Exactly. Like I've never had chronic pain, but imagine, like, I can't imagine having a child that is in pain
all the time.
Like that would break me. I would do everything. Like,
and that's what the mom was doing.
Exactly. And imagine if you finally brought her to this doctor, you finally think you found a treatment.
Yeah.
And it's finally doing something. God, I would fucking, yes, I would do exactly what, I would do whatever, So anyways.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I just like,
I know.
It bothers me. And I think what also bothers me again is that there were specialists that also contacted the hospital, that contacted the parents.
And they said,
they're like, this is what she has. Like, this is what we treated her. This is the treatment schedule we had. Like, it wasn't like the mom was creating these high doses of ketamine herself, right? Like, it's like she had the prescriptions from the doctors. And I get it, like we can go and talk about how, the opioid crisis where doctors were over prescribing pain medication and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But like, again, like as a parent, you would follow, you follow your doctor's recommendations, right?
Yeah.
So like if you have a doctor and your treatment's working, like you would go with that fucking plan. It just bothers me because you have situations like this. And again, I don't want to discredit that there's Munchausen by proxy exists and there are parents that do fucked up things to their kids. I think, in certain circumstances, and there is gray area and it's hard to establish and everything. But in a case like this, I just feel like there's so many things that point to the fact that there isn't Munchausen by proxy. There's more of those that outweigh the she wrote a little journal on her daughter's behalf, like that kind of shit. Like, and it bothers me because then on the flip side, you have other cases where
there's real evidence of child abuse.
And
it's ignored, so heavily just.
It was crazy. Yeah. Like, so if you guys haven't seen another documentary, which
Daniel talks about all the time.
I do. And it's like super dark.
Which is a very dark one.
Oh God. It's also a tearjerker, guys. And it's a lot. But again, it was a landmark case in a sense that it was one of the first cases where they actually brought it to the social workers that were involved. And they brought it to the, to the forefront. I don't know if there's been much change, but essentially what happened is there was a young child who constantly going to the hospital for all sorts of random shit like broken bones.
What's the documentary called, Daniel?
The
Trials of Gabriel. Is it Fernandez or Hernandez?
Can we? I should know.
The number of times you talk about it, you really should know the title of this. Okay.
I think it's.
Hold on.
I think it's Hernandez, but.
Fernandez.
Oh, Fernandez.
The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know, it's so sad. And like that situation, you literally had individuals in this boy's life, like his teacher, for example, who were calling into social services to be like, something is wrong here. Something is really wrong here.
He's showing up with bruises. There's
showing up with all
cuts
this
or whatever.
Exactly. There's weird stuff. His mood is changing. Like this needs to be investigated. And like the social work team, and I get it, like social workers, I think an issue too is that they just are overworked, right? They have too many cases that they're managing. And so things do slip through the cracks. So it's kind of hard. But at the same time, like a child's life is in your hands. Like you guys, like you need to take that seriously. And I feel like in that situation, when there should have been intervention, there should have been the state removing the child from that situation. There wasn't.
So it seems like when it's like a public service, when it's like a social service and it's a public service, they,
are more
these
reluctant.
Things just like slip through the cracks and you just like forget to, investigate these things. But when it's a private service,
oh God,
apparently everyone's a child abuser.
But I also wonder too with that situation is how much money that private service gets for kids that are removed. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're like...
Well, obviously I don't exactly know how it works, but it seems that the main reason is because the hospital gets to bill the insurance companies.
Right. For like extended
which is like
period
thousands of dollars because if you're keeping the child in hospital custody.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, at the end of the day, the hospital could have just released the child and been like, okay, why don't you go to the doctor that you went to before?
Right.
Because then they wouldn't be like responsible for this child's like... I really, truly don't think that they were really acting in Maya's best interest, right? Obviously, if you had a true concern that like she was in major danger, then I would understand. But there wasn't enough evidence to suggest that she was in major danger.
Yeah.
So if I was a hospital, I'd be like, we'll release you, but we don't have we don't agree with this assessment. But since we have this other doctor, then you can go to the other doctor.
Exactly.
But we do not, like maybe
we don't
sign
sign
a release
off.
form.
Yeah, we don't agree.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Then the hospital wouldn't have been liable in the first place.
Exactly.
But anyways, I think that's how they make money because they bill insurance companies for the stay in the hospital.
So I wonder if, because it's a private hospital, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the U.S. Everything's a private hospital.
So I wonder if then in this case where the family is entitled to the $261 million, I wonder if that's coming out of the hospital's budget.
Yeah,
they'll be the ones paying
they
for
sued
it.
the hospital. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they sued. Did they just sue the hospital? But did they also sue this like consultant company that like
maybe
works? So it could be both.
Oh no, this is what I heard. So I think this is right. I'm not positive, but I heard that they already got what do you call it?
Damages?
Like a plea. Yeah, they made some kind of plea agreement, some damages from the Sally person's.
Right.
I think so.
Right.
So she did testify at the what do you call it?
Hearing?
At the trial.
Yeah.
But apparently she's already they've already paid off some kind of damages or took a plea or something.
Yeah.
So they weren't the ones being sued in this situation. So this was against Johns Hopkins Hospital. Which is quite interesting. I could be wrong, guys. I don't know.
Well, and the fact that they won.
I know they won against the fucking big machine.
I know.
Which is hard to do, which is another reason why I'm like more inclined to believe it, because it's very hard to win against
huge
gigantic corporation.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gabriel Fernandez, he was being so badly abused by his mom and his like stepdad or something.
Yeah, his mom's boyfriend.
I will never understand how anyone could do that to anyone, first of all, but to your own child.
I know. I think that like there was some shit that went down. Like that family was not stable.
Yeah.
Like there was some really, really bad. It was a bad situation all around. Like it was crazy though. The
so
shit
bad.
that they did. Like they would like they found in his body like kitty litter in his stomach. Like they were forcing him to like eat kitty litter and shit. Like
just like sadistic shit. Like why would you do that to your child? Like why would you do that to any child?
Exactly.
Anyway, so eventually people kept trying to intervene, trying to be like social workers, please like do something. Because like, what are you supposed to do in that situation except for call the people that are supposed
well,
to help
and that's what you're supposed to do. And even the teacher in the documentary was like, I followed the steps I was supposed to do. Like when you have children in your class like this, it's your responsibility actually as a teacher. You are obligated to make those calls. And she did that step. She made that call.
I wish she did a little more though.
I know.
Did you feel like that when you were watching
I did
it?
feel like a little bit. I'm like, oh, like
a part of me was like, I feel like she could have done. I know that like obviously hindsight's 20/20.
Of course.
But I'm like, oh, like if you had just like, I don't know, call the police or something.
Yeah, but and then the issue is the social worker did go to their house and they did like a checkup. If you remember, they like checked in on the family and the mom, like, and this is what's crazy to me. So like in this circumstance with Maya and her mom, they don't take the mom's word whatsoever. They're like, she's crazy. It's Munchausen.
Though she has like
even though she has documentation, and they're like, nope, she's crazy. Munchausen by proxy, blah blah blah. And then with the trial of Gabriel Fernandez, it's like their mom like was talking to the social worker and goes, oh, you know, he fell off a bike or he did this, and this. And then they just took her word for it. Like, yep, perfect. Okay, cool. Sign off.
Fucking pisses me off. I hear about this all the time when social workers, again, or people that work in child protective services, they get called in to an abuse case and then they like talk to the parents that are the abusers or potential abusers.
Exactly.
How is that even like...
And then take their word for it.
Or sometimes they'll like ask the child in front of the parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course the child is not going to tell the truth when you're asking in front of their potential abuser.
Exactly.
Like, how is like, I don't even work in child protective services. I just have common fucking sense.
Exactly.
This is the thing. Like, that's what I was also thinking as I was watching this. I'm like, so basically we have cases like Gabriel Fernandez who are fully ignored by the system.
Yeah.
And then we have cases like this where children are detained and they aren't even abused.
Exactly.
Most likely. And it's like, what? Like, what? How is this possible?
I know.
How? Like, I don't understand.
I think the hard part is, again, I think these are two extreme cases, obviously.
But there were other cases.
Oh, no, there
well,
was.
Right?
Like, in the Maya case, like, there was actually so many people that came forward and like the same thing happened to me. Like all these people.
So basically a journalist found out about this story after like, you know, obviously because Beata, like, you know, she offed herself and so that made the news, right? So then a journalist found out and then she did like a full kind of deep dive into this story. Yeah. Published it. And then after she published it, she had got so many different emails of people being like, I also went through something similar, especially with this exact hospital. Yeah. So they're at the end, they interviewed a bunch of different people that had gone through something very, very similar. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, some people said they were in jail still for like 20 something years. Yeah. It's like, what the actual fuck is going on?
Especially, I think that the issue with this whole situation, and it was brought up in the documentary, is how there is quite a bit of gray area in these circumstances. Mm-hmm. And yet it's almost as if like the judge and like the situation or when it was going on, they just took the full advice or the full recommendation of one particular person, or like the
Sally lady.
Like she had too high a level of authority in this situation where it's like, maybe you should have like, and if there's so much gray area, maybe you need a few people to analyze this. Like maybe if there's that much gray area in this situation, you can't just rely on one person. You need a few other experts to weigh in before you make a decision or recommendation.
I don't understand. It's like, do you get joy out of ripping families apart? Like, this is a very serious situation.
I think deep down, like not deep down, but I think they might think that they're doing what's in the best interest for the children. Like they think that maybe, you know, they encounter this mom, she seems really heated and everything. And they're like, oh, recommending all these drugs. Like we need to separate these two, right? So in their mind,
I would like to believe this.
Yeah. They're probably justifying it to say, okay, well, one, it's paying the bills because I get to keep them in the hospital for longer. But two, I think deep down they think that they're actually protecting these children.
I would hope that is at least what they're thinking, because otherwise it's much more sinister. God, you know, damn. I don't want to think that they would want to actually
cause harm.
But it's like, but then why are you not even letting them hug the child?
I know.
That's another crazy thing.
That seems weird.
It's weird. It's like, do you not see the child like wanting to see the mom? And I get it. You could be abused and still, you know, whatever, you know,
love your
be
parents.
Attached to the abuser or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. The whole thing just like was so sad. And it was like, oh my God, why? I was like, no. After like the whole hug thing, I was like, oh God, I feel like something bad's going to happen.
And it did. It was so sad. I think one of the hardest parts for me, or one part that really made me bawl, is at the end when the daughter, she reads the letter to her mom.
Oh God.
And I was just like, oh, like, and it was just like, and even after, you could just see like the family.
They were so broken.
Towards the end too, when they went to court at the very end, and it was in 2022 when this documentary like obviously finished filming. And they went to court, and then the court wouldn't even hear them speak. The judge was just like, this is a very unusual request. No, we're pushing this on the docket. Like, even though the family had come to the court to speak, and they were just like, they're not even listening to us.
Yeah, because basically it was like one of those situations where I can't exactly know what it is, but it was basically like, are we going to go forward with the trial? I think that's what they came to court to see if like, okay, are we finally going to do the trial?
Yes.
And then the judge was like, this is too much, blah, blah, blah. We can't do the trial. We're going to, we're going to delay it, whatever.
I've moved 2,000 other cases to like hear this one today.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? Anyways, whatever. And then the lawyer of the family was like, well, can the family say something? And then the judge is just like, no, that's weird. That's a weird request.
That's a very strange request. Can the family address the court? No.
Like, what the actual fuck? I don't understand.
When the family left and went back to the house, the son had a breakdown in the room, and the daughter like stormed off.
I know, I cried too. Because okay, so let's talk about the son for a second. So the son, the little brother of Maya, his name's Kyle, and I felt bad for him because like I can't, because obviously when the mom is alive, right, and the parent, when you have a sick, child, a lot of your attention goes to that sick child naturally. Yeah. And so much of everything, you're pouring everything into your child. And I feel like, we do also have to understand that like the other child that has the sick sibling is kind of, God, I can't imagine the psychological issues that he has. Like I've seen a lot of movies about this. Even like, what is it? My Sister's Keeper. Oh. There's also a Korean movie where this like guy has autism, like severe autism, and then his brother is just constantly like feeling like he's ignored, and like his mom never looks at him. Like, so I was like, oh my God, I actually feel so bad for him.
Did you watch another example of another one? Did you ever watch The Sinner with Jessica Biel, the very first season?
I think I tried to watch it. But, oh wait, did I watch it? Did I finish it?
No, it's pretty good. It's a good one. I think if you started watching it, you'd watch it.
I did start watching it. I definitely watched the first.
Her sister was also another example. Right. Really, really sick, and her mom just focused on the sister.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, we can't really blame the parents too much because I think it's like a natural thing.
Yeah, because they're like, you're healthy, you can do your own thing. They need our help.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that, like, if you're a parent, it's probably something that you want to keep in mind, because
this is why I think also like the more, and I'm not comparing sick to like difficult kids, but like the more challenging siblings, like the rebel siblings, they always get more attention. Absolutely. And then the ones that are like well behaved and like get their shit done, their parents just are like, okay, cool, like
do whatever, enjoy.
You're like, Mom, I need help.
Yeah. So then Kyle, this poor kid, and then he like saw his mom, like, oh God, I honestly,
I can't. I
hope that he got some major fucking therapy after that, because that is so beyond. So anyways, and then just imagine just him being dragged through all of these situations, and it's just like,
and then for it to go on for 5 years after until they can sue, even after that 4 years, the son goes up to his room, and he's like a little bit older now, like, and then the dad goes up there to calm him, and he's like, this is fucking never ending. I just want this to be done. Like, I was like, oh my God,
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
And when did you watch the clip of them winning the case? You need to watch it.
Is it like,
so basically, because they, like it's very dramatic in the court. They start reading out. They're like, and it's very long. They say a lot of words before they finally say the verdict. Yeah. So they're like, in the case of blah 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 blah, the jury blah blah blah, and then like you can see like the look on like Maya's face, and she's just so desperate. She's already like crying. Yeah. So desperately wanting to hear what she wants to hear, and then finally they say like, basically instead of saying guilty, they said like yes or something, like as in they found that the hospital did this without whatever. Yeah. As soon as they said yes, like you can hear like Maya just like wailing, like crying. And then her brother as well, that was like sitting next to her, is also like fucking bawling his eyes out. The dad, like they're just crying so hard. It's like, you can just tell, like you could just feel oh my God, you need to watch that.
Is it on YouTube?
It's all over YouTube.
I'll take a look.
Oh God, it's so, and there's also a clip. God, I don't know why I watch this shit. It's so, there's a clip of them like in the court, and they're playing the 911 call in the court. and then they're showing the fucking Kyle. They're showing Kyle's face and they're showing Maya's face. And obviously everyone's just bawling. And I'm sitting here fucking bawling my fucking eyes out. And
that was on the court case. They show that.
Yeah, they showed it.
Fuck.
Well, I think that's it's a part of evidence probably.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay,
oh my
Daniels. God damn. So if you need a good cry.
God damn, that'd be intense as hell, Rose.
It's so fucking sad.
God damn.
Oh, anyway, guys. So
on that positive note.
That was a deep dive. I was not expecting to do a full deep dive.
Me neither. The full episode on that.
Woo!
But I think, you know what? It deserved a full episode.
It deserved it. I think it's interesting. It was like, first of all, we learned a lot about CRPS.
Yes.
Goddamn, chronic pain. I can't even imagine.
I know. I just think it sounds horrible. Like to have for any of you guys that have to deal with it. Like I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
That's a really shitty thing to constantly be going through.
Seriously, I can't imagine. This is why I'm like, I feel like it's so easy for people to judge if you've never experienced it.
Exactly.
So it's like, how can you know how you would react if you've never experienced that or somebody else that you love having that?
Yeah.
So anyways, oh my God, go watch it, you guys. Let us know if you did watch it. If you're watching it on this video on YouTube, comment below your thoughts.
Yep.
Do you agree with, everything we said? Maybe you
disagree. Maybe that's become more controversial than we think, Rose.
Maybe you think that it was Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
I still think even if it was, there wasn't enough evidence to
exactly.
Yeah, detain essentially. Anyways, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Make sure you thumbs up this video, and of course, follow us on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. Give us a little 5-star rating if you have a chance. And what else, Daniels?
And obviously check out our Patreon, guys. Patreon.com/the SaVeg Podcast for exclusive content, ad-free content, and you get everything a week earlier than everybody else. And have an amazing rest of your week, guys. And check out that documentary we just watched. Oh
God! And brace yourself.
Brace yourself. Get a box of Kleenexes.
Get a box of tissues. Okay.
And really brace yourself.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.